Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Between the Covers. My name is Bradley Shaw, and this evening I'm talking to Jarrod Jones, author of Madness in the Mountains. Hello, Jarrod. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Very good. So please tell all the viewers this wonderful story, Madness in the Mountains, how you constructed and conceived this wonderful idea.
Well, Bradley, it's a life story. We moved to the mountains when our son was born, and I love being outdoors and outside. We've got some plants. I had this beautiful bonsai and I had it sitting out next to the fence. One morning I came out and this crazy cockatoo was just chewing it to pieces. I got really angry about it and frustrated, and I, yelled at these cockatoos, and then I just thought, what a great platform for a story.
Yeah. Did they actually come back and attack you as in the story, or was that part made up?
Yeah, there's a little bit of fiction in there, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're pretty scary, pretty aggressive little cockatoos you got up there. Very good. So when you were conceiving the book, did you, I guess you've used your family, I presume, to encompass the tale. How did they find it? Did they enjoy the story? Did they get involved in it, your boys?
Well, my son, I only had one child when I started writing it,
right.
and he was only one. And so I guess I sort of exaggerated it a lot, but my poor wife, she heard it from the very first draft, which was 4,000 words, to the very finished copy, which was half that. So I think she enjoyed it, but she had a lot of patience.
So this was your first book too. So is it the first book you've written and published, or is it the first book you've tried? Like what was the process of writing for you? Like how's the journey been?
Great question. Look, it was the first book that I've written. I think it's sort of the first time that I've really disciplined myself to actually start, middle and end a story. I've always come up with some really interesting thoughts in my mind about the middle, but I've never actually been able to complete it.
Yeah.
But I guess when I realized that if I keep it simple, it'll work, that's what happened. Good.
And so from that, has it evolved to other books? Are you more confident now that you've started the journey, that you've built now this book, and you think, okay, I can do this, I can see this coming up? And is that something your goals now are looking towards, writing more? What's happening?
Yeah, I really enjoy that creative process. I've written another sort of short kids rhyming story that I really enjoyed writing as well. And I've been putting together a TV series, which the writing element of that's been really fun. But I guess for me, it's just about having fun and seeing where it takes me. No real plans at the moment. Like I'm not going to quit my job right now, but certainly the after hours is I sort of discipline myself to get in and jot some things down.
Do you sit down, you make a time for it? Do you schedule it, or do you just sort of go as a moment of thought hits you? You might, delve into it, or do you have to block out time?
Well, usually I'll be at work and I'll be in the middle of work, and I'll go, I've got an idea, so I'll pick out my phone, push record on my little recorder, and just go blah blah blah. I'll start talking to myself, and then I'll come home and I'll edit, clean it up, and put it down on paper.
Yeah, and they're mostly children's books. Is that what you want to specialise in, or are you looking to evolve into the full narrative novel, or what's your plan?
Well, I love writing for kids because they're a very receptive audience and not as critical. I would love to write for teenagers later on, but I'm just not sure I've got the wordplay for that at the moment.
Sure. That's good. So did you find that the writing as a process, as an art, do you need to explore the research of writing for children? Like, is there, because you've got to be very, I guess, conscious of words and play, and also, aligning those to children's levels, I guess, of education or understanding. Did you find that a challenge, or did you find just writing and letting children take what they take? How do you
Well, Brad, like when I first wrote it, it was so much longer, and I was really there was so much more to it. And it was only when I read it out loud to some friends that have got kids, and I didn't get bored myself, but I was just like, oh my goodness, this is too long. What am I doing? So then I just had to cut, edit. This isn't any good. What's this word? Kids aren't going to get that, this concept. So the main theme for me was to just have some humor, to teach kids about being outdoors, about the environment, but also that really integral part of the story, which is about living with nature and not trying to work against it. While there's humor in working against it in the story, in real life, we really want to focus on working with it.
And understanding it, yeah, definitely. No, that's good. So so that process, I guess, is part of a writing construct for children that you have to understand, and you've done that well in this book. In the other challenges of the writing process, how did you find, I guess, aligning to illustrations and understanding the illustrating process where it interprets your words? So we aligned you to an illustrator. How did you find that working for you?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect. When you're writing something, I suppose you've got in your head this vision of what you expect, even from the pictures that you think. Yep. And so I was a little bit scared of having somebody else have that part of the creative process. But it's interesting, when I started to get some of the pictures back, and obviously I typed up what I thought and sent it in to the illustrator. And when it came back, I was quite happy. I mean, you sort of go, maybe it's not what I was envisioning, but since I've seen the whole thing put together, I'm just like, wow, this is fantastic. That target audience are really going to enjoy it. It's for older kids, and they like that sort of those sorts of pictures. So after seeing it all, I'm quite happy that I handed it over in a sense.
Good. And that's the thing too with the process. Now that you've learnt that too, as working with the illustrator is an interpretation of your story, but in their way as well. So you've got to allow them to have an artistic input, and the two of you working together create this great book. Just on the interim, while I'm here, to everybody watching too, by the way, this book is out in May 15th and available everywhere books are sold. So he's done a great job. So go down to your local bookstore and buy it. It is great because we want you to support local business. That's the first objective, is get out to the local bookstores because those businesses need your help as well. You can buy it online anywhere, but do support your local bookstore. So getting back to you, Jarrod, you're now, as you say, you've got young children now. Yeah. What books do you read to them? What sort of ways do you find, and what engages you with children's books at the moment?
I can recite all of Aaron Blaby's Pig the Pug series right now, if you like.
It's a bit like that some days, isn't it?
So kids, they love that repetition. They love the rhyme. They love the animated pictures, and that's what I really appreciated about Madness's pictures and illustrations, that I think they'll really engage the audience. They're very colourful, very vibrant, very comical and humorous. And lots I think that's
lots of poop.
Yes, lots of poop. That's right.
So kids love lots of poop. But yeah, so reading, being involved with kids as you are as a parent, is also very engaging, because you also get to, I guess, study and learn and value what other books are out there. As an author, that's really good research alone, is to see what kids are exposed to and how you can create a uniqueness. So yeah, so you're in a very lucky position. We get a lot of authors who maybe don't have children, their children are older, or teachers, of course. Teachers like to write for children. But your books, you've got a very unique perspective, which is really good. So I encourage you to use that. Having said that, did you find anything, now this is interesting, in children's books, I'm curious of this question, did you ever experience a sort of a writer's block or a challenge, in the sense you couldn't write, you had the idea, but you couldn't get it right?
Writer's block. I suppose when I was always thinking, I want to write a story for my son, because I just had him, we just had him at the time, and I was like, what can I write about? What can I write about? And one day my wife, she just said to me, Jarrod, why don't you just write about those annoying cockatoos? We'd already named one of the cockatoos Brian. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I just started writing, and I literally just wrote down, I think probably within 2 days, this massive story. And then the editing process started.
Yeah, which is your own ending first. Really looking at your story and seeing the content as what's valuable. I agree. So, how did you name your characters? So, you named your bird one through naming them literally. But was that a process? Would you have to think of a unique name or some fun names for that as well, like coming up with that?
Well, Brian was actually the head cockatoo in the book. It's actually my grandfather's name. And when I was a kid, my grandfather, he had this beautiful walnut tree. And we'd be there, and the cockatoos would be out on his walnut tree, and he'd go out with a hose and he'd spray him, and he'd start yelling at these in his dressing gown on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, what better way to dedicate a cockatoo story than to my grandfather and name the lead role Brian? that was how I came up with that.
I think there's a compliment in that somewhere. I think so. I mean, I'm sure. So see how your grandfather looks at it. So what did you want to do when you grew up as a child yourself? So you obviously, had a lot of enthusiasm, imagination. What did you want to do when you were growing up?
I mean, things change as you get older, but I think one of my first remembrances as a child was wanting to be a vet, to work with animals. And then I wanted to be a ornithologist. So that's specifically a person that works with birds. And then it was always kind of like to deal with animals. And then I ended up not working with animals, but just having lots of pet animals.
Creating them now in children's books that'll give, kids a good laugh. Yeah. So if you didn't write now and, doing what you do in your life, what would you do? What would be ideal? If there was no rules or no limits, what would you be doing?
Wow. I wasn't prepared for that question.
Curious.
Probably some sort of entrepreneur.
I was going to say, besides being a best-selling author, what else would you do now?
Some sort of entrepreneurial work would be nice, and working with people and the environment, and helping to create some sort of structure with our ecosystems and with the way that people interact with them. Something along those lines would be really good. People are really important. I think tourism is really important, and educating people about how we can work with that natural environment around us. Like, for instance, not being scared of snakes, not trying to kill a spider every time you see it, but just educating people about how we can, work around the places that we visit, the places that we move to, things like that.
Live with nature, not against it. I agree. Yeah. So is that then in a theme there? Are you very passionate about that? Obviously, something in future books. Are you planning out future books for our audience? Are you looking for when Madness is successful? Of course, they're going to ask for more. What plans do you have in the pipeline?
With Madness, I do have a follow-up book that I've been thinking of and sort of putting together. So definitely, I'd like to work with those characters again. And I haven't really thought too much about other series, but certainly developing Madness as a series is something I have thought about. What different sorts of things that the characters can go through on the mountains, because when you move to an environment, there's lots of challenges, plenty of animals, plenty of experiences. So that's definitely, hopefully, in the pipeline.
Good. One of those. So so the thought on this book, you think you've achieved it? You think this has come out the way you like? You're happy with this book now, as it's ready for the readers?
I certainly am happy with it. And I hope that, one thing that I am passionate about is reading with enthusiasm. So, for instance, I think if you just read this book in a monotone, you're not going to get the same as if you read it with a thud, 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 the Cockatoo squadron landed on the roof, That sort of enthusiasm, I think, needs to be engaged. And I'm hoping that the readers will engage in that sense with it, so that they can get the most out of Madness.
Yeah, good. And so now, you said earlier you started a YouTube channel. Tell us about that, a YouTube video channel. What's that?
So I knew that the book was being released. I was really excited about it. I thought, how can I engage with the audience? And so my brother-in-law, he loves to film. He said, Jarrod, if you write it, I'll film it. So we I started writing All Aussie Madness, and he started filming. And it's just about kids engaging with the outdoors, and learning about nature. And one thing that we're really trying to include, having kids is working with kids that are on the spectrum, with our First Nation children, with our deaf children. I've got a little bit of sign language that I know. So we want to sort of incorporate all those things into this series so that all kids can enjoy it, and all kids can learn to appreciate the natural wonders around them.
Great. Well, everyone watching, check out the channel and see. We'll get that sorted for you, Jarrod, and get that promoted.
Thanks so much.
So tell us more about your timeline, like when you wanted to write, like when you realized that you wanted to write. It wasn't just a matter of like, okay, here's a story, but when did you have that bug where you said, you know what, I could actually put something out of this, create something for this? When did you have that happen for you?
Bradley, I remember I was in year 2 and Miss Ferguson, she was my favorite primary school teacher. And if she's watching, hello. But she read us this book, and it was about a bunch of animals that were on a boat, but it was actually written by a child and it was published. And it won one of those book children's stickers awards. And I remember thinking back in grade 2, she read it and I was like, I want to write a book. And ever since then, I've always wanted to write a book. I always started plenty of times, but again, just developing that theme of beginning, middle, end, it never came to fulfillment until I started writing Madness.
Oh, good. Now, Madness, you submitted to us. We ran a competition, I think, if I recall, for the books, and I think you won. If I'm not mistaken, you won the Shortline Indie Author Awards for 2020. Is that correct?
It was a fantastic reward. It was a fantastic competition to be a part of, and submitting the entry. I sort of, when you submit something, you kind of go, oh well, at least I'll submit. And then I remember we were driving in the car, and Rachel opened my emails, and she said, "Jarrod, you've won." And I'm like, "Won what?" And she's like, "You've won this." And I pulled over on the side. I'm like, "You're kidding, right?" And she showed me the email, and I was just blown away. I didn't believe it. I think I actually called you, and I'm like, "Bradley, like, is this real?" And you said, "Yeah, it's real." It was such an amazing privilege to not only be a part of it, but then to receive that first prize.
You deserved it, I think, because what took us by when we looked at the evaluation of all the entrants, great entrants. So it wasn't easy, but yours had a very honest simplicity and a very fun element that we thought, could really, as you say, bolster into a topic for the kids to understand and to grow into and to appreciate as much as enjoy. And that's what we have to look for, as much as, no one being clever. You weren't trying to be clever. You were just telling a very natural story. So congratulations on that. I was really impressed with it. And I think the readers are going to get a lot of that too, for that, what you've achieved. So on that note, tell us what you hope readers get out of it, more so too. Naturally, it's going to be read by parents to their children, or young children who can read will get to read it themselves. What do you hope they gain? What's the real insight for you that you want to share?
I think one thing that I like, obviously I want them to enjoy it. I want them to laugh out loud, to go, really? Is that what cockatoos are really like? And then to just learn to look around when they walk around, when they're outside, to take a look, to see what's around them and really appreciate. I don't know if you've ever watched cockatoos yourself, but the other day I was down at the park, and these cockatoos were trying to open this bin up, this recycling bin, and they were actually accomplishing it. So whenever we look around, and Australia was actually referred to by a historian in the 1800s as the land of parrots, because we just have so many parrots and bird life in Australia. So one thing that I hope that all of our readers gain from it is an appreciation for birds specifically, but also just for being outdoors and enjoying enjoying the environment around them and laughing with the family.
Absolutely.
Not getting pooped on.
Well, one of the things I was going to say was they're probably going to start taking umbrellas outside with them, I think, when they see cockatoos. So I tell you what, there's a lot of poop in this book. But
It sure is.
But anyway, Jarrod, thank you so much for your time tonight, and thank everybody for watching. Do grab Jarrod's book. As I say, it's available everywhere books are sold, online and offline, but get down to your local bookstore and support them. Please grab a copy of this book because it is fabulous. It's good fun, good laugh, and Jarrod's done a marvellous job. So support him as a new Australian author, and we're going to see big things, I hope, coming from him in the future. Thank you, Jarrod, for your time. Thanks so much, Bradley. Have a lovely evening. You too. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye, and go buy a book.